Welcome to Stock Intelligence by Lynx, your all-in-one platform for stock research, market analysis, and portfolio insight. If you've ever used Yahoo Finance, FinViz, TradingView, or Morningstar, you know the drill. You open one site to check a stock price, another to read the fundamentals, a third to see what insiders are doing, and maybe a fourth to check what's happening with interest rates. By the time you've pieced it all together, you've lost 10 minutes and half your train of thought. That's the problem we built this platform to solve. Everything you need in one place, on one screen, with zero ads and zero paywalls. Let me show you how it works. To get started, I enter my email address and click Continue. The system recognizes my account and signs me in through your identity provider. No separate passwords, no extra setup. You sign in with the credentials you already use every day. And here's a nice touch. When you come back the next day, the platform remembers your email and your identity provider. If your session is still valid, you're signed in automatically without even seeing the login screen. No re-entering credentials, no re-authenticating. You just land right where you left off. And just like that, we're in. The first thing you see after signing in is the morning brief, your daily market pulse. Across the top is a metric strip, the 10-year and 2-year Treasury yields, the spread between them with a clear inverted or normal label, the Fed funds rate with a trend arrow, investment grade and high-yield credit spreads, the VIX with a regime label, the current inflation rate, the percentage of stocks above their 200-day moving average, and the count of stocks near 52-week highs versus lows. On most platforms, you'd need 3 or 4 different websites to see all of this. Here, it's the first thing you see when you log in. Below that is an auto-generated narrative summary that reads like a morning note from your analyst. Yield curve state, VIX regime, market breadth, and the leading sector, all in one sentence. You can literally glance at it and know the market's posture. On the left side, you'll see the sector scoreboard, a fully sortable table with 11 columns covering every sector in the market. Each row shows the sector's total market cap, 1-year return, both market cap weighted and equal weighted, performance relative to the S&P 500, average volatility, the percentage of stocks above their 50-day and 200-day moving averages, the percentage near 52-week highs and lows, and the stock count. Click any column header to sort. Want to see which sector has the best breadth? Sort by percentage above SMA 200. Want to find the most beaten down sector? Sort by 1-year return. The color coding makes it easy. Green for strength, red for weakness. This level of sector analysis usually requires a Bloomberg terminal or a paid institutional service. Here, it's right on your opening screen. On the right side, 2 interactive 3-dimensional charts give you a visual read on sector dynamics. The first is a 3D sector scatter plot. Each sector is a bubble positioned by market cap, 1-year return, and volatility. You can rotate it, zoom in, and hover for details. The second is a sector rotation chart that maps sectors into 4 quadrants: leading, weakening, lagging, and improving, based on their 1-year relative strength versus the S&P 500 and their 3-month momentum. This is the kind of framework institutional strategists use to make allocation calls. Here, it's automated and visual. Both charts have a Maximize button that opens them in full screen for presentations or deeper analysis, and the divider between the scoreboard and the charts is draggable. Adjust the layout to your preference, and it remembers your setting. Below all of that, we have the top 5 performers and the bottom 5 performers, based on 52-week price change. Each card shows the ticker, company name, sector, price, trailing and forward PE, market cap, and that 52-week return. So without clicking anything, you already know which stocks are leading and which ones are lagging. This is your starting point every morning. One screen, 30 seconds, and you're caught up. Now let's move to where most of the action happens, the watch list. This is your stock screener. You're looking at a table with nearly 5,000 securities, covering the full universe of U.S. stocks and ETFs. Each row gives you the ticker, company name, sector, current price, trailing and forward PE ratios, market cap, dividend yield, 52-week change, and the next earnings date. plus a full suite of technical and fundamental metrics. At the top, you have powerful filtering options. The search box supports fuzzy matching. I can type a ticker, a partial company name, or even an approximate spelling, and it finds what I'm looking for. I can filter by sector, let me pick technology, and I can filter by stock basket, S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, Dow 30, or the Magnificent 7. If I just want stocks or just ETFs, that's a toggle too. These basket filters are incredibly useful. Instead of scrolling through thousands of names, I click S&P 500 and I'm instantly looking at just those 500 companies. Click Mag 7 and I see Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta, and Tesla. When I'm done filtering, one click on Clear resets everything back to the full view. Now here's something power users will love. See the Columns button? I click it and a drop-down appears with every column listed. I can uncheck the ones I don't need. Maybe I don't care about dividend yield today, or I want to hide the momentum columns. The table immediately adjusts, and the columns I've hidden stay hidden even if I close the browser and come back tomorrow. Click Show All to bring everything back. It's your workspace, configured your way. Beyond the standard price and fundamental data, the platform runs a full analytics pipeline across every stock. For each security, we compute windowed statistics across multiple time horizons: 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, year to date, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. Each window includes total return, annualized return, volatility, Sharpe ratio, maximum drawdown, win rate, beta and alpha versus the S&P 500. On top of that, we calculate point-in-time technical indicators, RSI 14, 3-month and 6-month momentum, momentum acceleration, 1-year trend slope with R squared, distance from 52-week high and low, SMA crossover signals and volume changes. And from financial statements, we derive revenue growth year over year and quarter over quarter, EPS growth, gross and operating and net margins, margin trends, debt to equity, current ratio, ROE, and 3-year revenue CAGR. All of this feeds into 3 derived columns visible in the table. The PEG ratio, trailing PE divided by forward EPS growth, tells you whether a stock is cheap or expensive relative to its growth. Earnings in shows how many days until the next earnings report, so you can scan for upcoming catalysts at a glance. And the recovery ratio, 1-year return divided by maximum drawdown, measures resilience. Above 1 means the stock recovered more than it lost. These aren't static data points pulled from a feed. They're computed fresh by our pipeline, so every metric stays current and consistent across the entire universe. With nearly 5,000 stocks, we paginate the table for performance. You can choose 25, 50, or 100 rows per page, or click All to show everything at once. The page size persists across sessions. You can sort by any column. Let me click on 52-week change, and now I can instantly see which stocks have had the biggest moves over the past year. Click again to reverse the sort. The sort indicator lights up to show you which column is active. Now, let's say I want to dig deeper into Apple. I click the row, and notice how fast the detail panel opens. There's no loading spinner, no waiting for a new page to render. The data is right there. This is one of the things that sets this platform apart. Once you've viewed a stock, the data is cached in memory. So when you're clicking through your watch list comparing names, Apple, then Microsoft, then Google, each one loads instantly. On most platforms, every click means another page load, another 3 to 5 seconds of waiting. Here, the flow is seamless. You stay in your research groove. Right at the top, you see the company name, sector, and a row of quick link buttons: SEC filings, Yahoo Finance, earnings calls, Yahoo News, Google Finance, FinViz, Seeking Alpha, macro trends, the company's website, and its investor relations page. So if you ever want to go deeper on any angle, it's one click away. No searching, no bookmarking. Below that is an interactive price chart. I can choose different time ranges: 5 days, 1 month, 6 months, year to date, 1 year, 5 years, or the full history. I can also set a custom date range with exact start and end dates if I need a specific window. I can switch between chart styles: line, mountain, candlestick, or OHLC bars, whatever you're most comfortable reading. I can overlay technical indicators directly onto the chart: simple moving averages at 20, 50, and 200 days, exponential moving averages, Bollinger Bands, and all of these are computed right here in your browser. There's no round trip to a server, so it's instant. I can also turn on analyst price targets. You'll see the high, low, and consensus target lines right on the chart, so you can see where the stock is trading relative to where analysts think it should be. Now, here's where the information density really shines. Without leaving this panel, without opening a single new tab, let me scroll through everything that's available for this one stock. Fundamentals are organized into clear sections. Valuation gives you the PE ratio, both trailing and forward, PEG ratio, price to book, market cap, and enterprise value. Profitability shows earnings per share, profit margins, operating margins, return on equity, and return on assets. The balance sheet section covers cash position, total debt, debt to equity ratio, current ratio, and book value per share. And dividends and growth shows the yield, payout ratio, revenue growth, earnings growth, and the 52-week trading range. Right below the standard fundamentals is the AI stats section, and this is where our analytics pipeline really comes to life. These aren't numbers pulled from a third-party feed. Every metric here is computed fresh by our engine across the entire stock universe. It's organized into 3 panels. The first is trend and momentum. 1-year trend slope with R² to show how linear the move has been. 3-month and 6-month momentum. Momentum acceleration so you can see if a trend is gaining or losing steam. RSI 14 and a golden cross signal indicating whether the 50-day moving average has crossed above the 200-day. The second panel is performance windows: return, volatility, Sharpe ratio, maximum drawdown, and beta, broken out across 1-year, 3-year, and 5-year horizons. So you can see at a glance how a stock has performed and how much risk it took to get there across multiple timeframes. The third panel is computed fundamentals: revenue growth year over year and quarter over quarter, forward EPS growth, gross margin, operating margin, net margin, margin trend, debt to equity, and return on equity. These are derived directly from financial statements by our pipeline, giving you a clean, consistent set of growth and profitability metrics for every stock. On most platforms, you'd need to pull data into a spreadsheet and compute these yourself. Here, they're pre-calculated and updated automatically for nearly 5,400 securities. Below the AI stats, we have earnings history charted out, quarterly revenue and net income as bar charts so you can see the trend at a glance. Next to that, an annual cash flow chart showing operating cash flow, CapEx, free cash flow, and financing cash flow side by side. And if the company pays a dividend, there's a dividend history chart as well. These charts appear automatically for individual stocks. ETFs don't report earnings or cash flow, so you won't see them there. Now, here's something you usually have to go to a separate service to find. We surface insider transactions right here: who's buying, who's selling, how many shares, the dollar value, and the date. On Yahoo Finance or FinViz, you'd need to click through to a different page or an entirely different site for this. Here, it's just part of the stock profile. Same with institutional holdings: the top funds and firms that own the stock, their share count, and what percentage of the float they control, all in line. There's also a news section pulling in the latest headlines for the stock. Think about what just happened: price chart, technical indicators, analyst targets, full fundamentals, AI computed stats, earnings history, cash flow, dividends, insider activity, institutional ownership, news, and research links, all on one scrollable panel. On most platforms, that's 5 or 6 different pages. Here, it's one. Now, let me show you something you won't find on any other stock platform. Let me click this 3D button. What you're looking at is an interactive 3-dimensional scatter plot. The horizontal axis is time. The vertical axis is the stock price. And the depth axis, going into the screen, is trading volume. Each bubble represents one trading day. Green means the stock closed up, red means it closed down. And the size of each bubble represents the daily price range, how volatile that day was. Why does this matter? Because in a traditional two-dimensional chart, you can see price over time, but you can't see volume at the same time without a separate bar chart underneath. Here, all three dimensions, price, time, and volume, are visible simultaneously. You can drag to rotate the view. You can zoom in. When you hover over a bubble, you see the full details: open, high, low, close, volume, and the daily change. The big bubbles are the interesting ones. Those are high volatility days, often around earnings announcements or major news events. And when a big bubble also sits at a volume spike on the depth axis, that tells you it was a high conviction move. That kind of insight is hard to get from a flat chart. No other retail stock platform offers three-dimensional visualization. Not Yahoo Finance, not TradingView, not Finviz, not Morningstar. This is unique to Lynx DI Stock Intelligence. Now, let me check the boxes next to Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. Notice how the filter bar updates. It now shows 4 selected out of 5,400 stocks, so you always know how many you've picked. The detail panel automatically switches to comparison mode. You're looking at all 4 stocks on the same chart with their performance normalized or rebased, so you can compare them even though they trade at very different price levels. I can also toggle on the S&P 500 as a benchmark line to see which stocks are outperforming or underperforming the broader market. Now scroll down, and this is one of my favorite parts of the platform. All 4 stocks' fundamentals are displayed side by side in the same table: PE ratios, margins, return on equity, debt levels, dividend yields, everything lined up in columns so you can compare directly. Think about how you'd normally do this. You'd look up Apple's PE, try to remember it, open a new tab for Microsoft, write it down, then do the same for Google and Amazon. By the time you've got all 4 numbers, you've forgotten the first one. Here, you just check 4 boxes and they're all right in front of you. No memorizing, no switching tabs, no scribbling on a notepad. Just a clean side-by-side view. And if I switch to 3D mode here, all 4 stocks appear in the same 3-dimensional space, each in a different color. You can see at a glance which stock had the most volatile days, which one had the highest volume spikes, and how their price trajectories compare over time. This is incredibly useful when you're deciding between 2 or 3 names in the same sector. You check a few boxes, and within seconds, you can see which one has the stronger fundamentals, better momentum, or more conviction from the market without juggling a single number in your head. Let me show you watch lists. With those 4 stocks still checked, I'll click the Add to Watch List button that appeared in the filter bar. I can add them to an existing watch list or create a new one. Let me create one called Big Tech. Now you'll see a new pill appear in the watch list bar at the top. I click it, and the table filters down to just those 4 stocks. This is my custom view. I can create as many watch lists as I want. One for tech, one for dividend plays, one for earnings trades. Whatever makes sense for how you work. On TradingView's free plan, you're limited to a single watch list. On Finviz Free, watch list features are restricted. Here, there are no limits. And here's the important part. These watch lists are saved to the cloud, so if I sign in from a different computer tomorrow, my watch lists are right there waiting for me. Nothing is lost. To rename a watch list, I just double-click the pill and type the new name. To delete one, I click the X. Simple as that. Let's look at the heat map. This gives you a bird's eye view of the S&P 500 in one picture. Every rectangle represents a stock, and the size of each rectangle corresponds to its market cap, so the biggest companies take up the most space. They're grouped by sector, so you can immediately see how different parts of the market are doing. Right now, the colors show 52-week price change. Green means the stock is up, red means it's down, and the intensity tells you by how much. So in about 2 seconds, you can see which sectors are thriving and which are struggling. I can switch the color mode to PE ratio. Now green means a stock is cheaply valued, and red means it's expensive. This is great for spotting pockets of value or identifying overheated areas. There's also a dividend yield view, where deeper green means a higher yield, useful if you're focused on income-generating stocks. If I click on a sector, say technology, it zooms in so I can see the individual stocks within that sector more clearly. I click the breadcrumb at the top to zoom back out. Next up is correlation. This one is especially valuable for anyone thinking about portfolio construction and diversification, and it's a feature that most retail platforms simply don't offer. On Yahoo Finance, there's no correlation tool. On FinViz, there isn't one either. On TradingView, you'd need to find a community-built script and hope it works. Most people end up exporting data to Excel and running the math themselves. Here, it's built in. What you're looking at is a matrix that shows how every stock in your watch list moves relative to every other stock, based on their daily returns over the past year. Green means they tend to move together. Red means they tend to move in opposite directions. Gray means there's no meaningful relationship. Why does this matter? If you own 5 stocks that are all highly correlated, you might think you're diversified, but you're really not. They'll all go up and down together. This tool lets you see that instantly. Let me switch to the 3D view. Now the same correlation data is shown as a surface. Peaks represent high positive correlation, and valleys represent negative correlation. You can rotate it, zoom in, and explore the relationships from different angles. It's a much more intuitive way to see the overall structure of how your holdings interact, especially when you have a dozen or more stocks in a watch list. Again, 3-dimensional correlation visualization is something you won't find in any other retail stock platform. Now let's look at the macro dashboard. This is where stock intelligence really separates itself from tools like Yahoo Finance, TradingView, or Seeking Alpha, because none of those platforms give you a dedicated macro view alongside your stock research. Stocks don't exist in a vacuum. They're driven by interest rates, inflation, employment, housing, and dozens of other economic forces. On most platforms, if you want to check the yield curve or the unemployment rate, you have to leave your stock tool and go to the Federal Reserve's website or some other data source. By the time you come back, you've lost your context. Here, all of that lives under one roof. Starting at the top left, we have the current yield curve, a snapshot of Treasury yields from 1 month out to 30 years. Next to it, the historical 10-year minus 2-year spread, which is one of the most watched recession indicators. Moving along, we have credit spreads, the gap between corporate bond yields and treasuries. When these widen, it signals stress in the credit markets. Then key interest rates over time, the 10-year, 2-year, and Fed funds rate, so you can see the trajectory of monetary policy. Inflation is tracked through year-over-year CPI. The labor market panel shows both the unemployment rate and weekly initial claims. Economic activity combines industrial production with building permits to give you a read on the real economy. We also track consumer sentiment alongside the money supply, the VIX volatility index plotted against the S&P 500, oil prices with the US dollar index, and a full housing section covering home prices, housing starts, existing home sales, and mortgage rates. 12 panels, all sourced from the Federal Reserve's economic database, all updated automatically. the kind of macro dashboard that used to require a Bloomberg terminal at $30,000 a year, or at least 3 or 4 browser tabs, is right here alongside your stock research. Before we wrap up, a couple of quick things about the experience itself. If I click my avatar up here, I can toggle between dark mode and light mode. But more importantly, the platform remembers everything: which tab you were on, which watch list you had selected, your chart style, your time range, your 2D or 3D preference, your column visibility settings, your page size, even the width of the detail panel and the morning brief splitter. When you come back, it's exactly how you left it. This might sound like a small thing, but if you've ever used TradingView and had to reconfigure your chart settings every session, you know how frustrating that is. Here, your workspace is always ready. And of course, there are no ads anywhere. No banners, no pop-ups, no sponsored content interrupting your research. Just a clean, focused interface. You'll also notice the Lynx DI logo in the top left links to our website, and there's a Built by Lynx DI link in the corner. Visit lynxdi.com anytime to learn more. Sign out is right here when you're done. So that's Stocks Intelligence by Lynx DI. Let me quickly recap why we believe this is the best way to do stock research today. First, it's fast. Stock data loads instantly as you click through your list. No page reloads, no spinners, no waiting. You can flip through 20 stocks in a minute and never break your flow. Returning users are signed in automatically, no re-entering credentials. Second, everything is on one screen. Price charts, technical indicators, fundamentals, earnings history, cash flow, insider transactions, institutional holdings, news, and research links, all in a single scrollable panel. On most platforms, that's spread across 5 or 6 different pages or sites. Third, nearly 5,400 securities with smart filtering, the full U.S. stock and ETF universe, filterable by sector, name, or pre-built baskets, S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, Dow 30, and the Magnificent 7. Customize which columns are visible, and everything persists across sessions. Fourth, calculated intelligence built in. Every stock has a full AI stats panel, trend analysis, momentum signals, risk-adjusted performance across multiple windows, and computed fundamental metrics, all generated by our analytics pipeline. On top of that, derived columns like PEG ratio, days until earnings, and recovery ratio are computed automatically across the entire universe. These are the kinds of metrics that usually require a spreadsheet or an institutional terminal. Here, they're built right in. Fifth, a morning brief that reads like an analyst note, macro metric strip, auto-generated narrative summary, a full sector scoreboard with 11 sortable dimensions, and 3D sector rotation analysis, all before you even open the watch list. Sixth, macro and stock analysis live together. You don't need to leave the platform to check interest rates, inflation, credit spreads, or housing data. It's all here, one tab away from your stock screener. Seventh, built-in correlation analysis. Most retail tools don't offer this at all. Here, you get a full 2D correlation matrix plus a 3D surface model you can rotate and explore. You can instantly spot which holdings are truly diversified and which ones are just moving in lockstep. Eighth, side-by-side comparison without memorizing a thing. Check a few boxes and every fundamental metric for those stocks lines up in columns right in front of you. No opening separate tabs, no writing numbers on a notepad. It's all there at once. Ninth, 3D visualization throughout. Interactive 3-dimensional scatter plots for individual stocks and comparisons, 3D correlation surfaces, 3D sector scatter and rotation charts, perspectives that flat charts simply can't provide. No other retail stock platform offers this. 10th, it's distraction-free. No ads, no paywalls, no upgrade prompts, just data and tools. And it all runs in your browser. There's nothing to install, nothing to configure. You sign in with your existing Google or Microsoft account, and you're ready to go. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more or get access, visit stocks.lynxdi.com.